Welcome back. And now for the news in detail. European Parliament's Committee on Foreign Affairs will discuss the worsening situation in Indian-occupied Kashmir today. Azad Jammu and Kashmir's Prime Minister Raja Farooq Haider will brief the body. Farooq Haider will also meet the British parliamentarians in London after the EU discussion. Talking to media, Haider appreciated a US House Committee on Foreign Affairs resolution to discuss Valley's current situation. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has expressed hope that EU will play its role against India's atrocities. Pakistan says India has failed to convince the EU Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee to drop the Kashmir crisis from its meeting's agenda. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has said India is facing defeat on every international forum over occupied Kashmir crisis. In an interview, Qureshi said India tried but failed to keep the Organization of Islamic Cooperation silent on Kashmir crisis. He said New Delhi has completely failed to convince the world that occupied Kashmir is its internal matter. Qureshi also reiterated his call to the international community to play its role to stop Indian atrocities in the valley. New Delhi's crushing curfew and communications blackout in the occupied valley has now entered 29th day. In Afghanistan, the Taliban claim they have killed 25 government troops in Paktia and Ghazni provinces. The fighters had already launched assaults on Kunduz and Baghlan provinces, killing over 60 people in the last 2 days. Spokesman Zabiullah Mujahid says the group attacked an army convoy in Paktia's Zumrud district, killing 15 soldiers. He says the fighters killed 10 other troops, including a commander in the Karabakh district of Ghazni. Meanwhile, the clashes in Baghlan continues as major highways and roads near the province remain blocked. Earlier, US envoy Zalmay Khalilzad said Washington is at threshold of an agreement with the Taliban after the end of the 9th round of talks. Khalilzad said he brought up the matter of the Taliban's renewed attacks, pressing them to bring the fighting to an end. Hezbollah and Israel have exchanged fire along the Lebanese border after a week of growing tension. Hezbollah claims it destroyed an Israeli tank, while Israel's military retaliated by firing 100 shells into Lebanon. Iran says Hezbollah's attack on Israel was a retaliation. Israel says Washington fully supports its right to self-defense. In the meantime, Bahrain has instructed its citizens to leave Lebanon immediately. Earlier, the Lebanese Prime Minister Saad Hariri asked the US, France and the international community to intervene and stop the conflict. Palestine has demanded global sanctions against Israel over its existing and planned illegal settlements in the West Bank. Senior Palestinian official Saib Erekat says Israel has been involved in systematic human rights violations and war crimes for decades. Saib Erekat urged the world to take notice of new Jewish settlements in the occupied territories. Hanan Ashrawi says Israel is violating the UN Charter and the Rome Statute on War Crimes and Genocide. Ashrawi says Israel is pursuing a racist nation-state law was adopted earlier this year by the Knesset. Earlier, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pledged to make all illegal Jewish settlements a part of Israel. Meanwhile, Israeli army arrests 22 Palestinians in overnight raids in the West Bank. Syria says the ceasefire declared by the army in northwestern Idlib province is temporary. Syria's presidential advisor, Butaina Shaban, says the ceasefire was set up to stabilize the situation in Idlib. Shaban says the Turkish army now in parts of Idlib will be forced to leave the country. The Syrian army says it reserves the right to respond to any violation by the Al-Qaeda-linked Nusra Front. Russia's defense ministry has asked rebels to abandon armed resistance and join the peace process. Moscow claims Russian and Syrian warplanes have not carried out any recent raids in the region. Moving on to Libya, where 4 civilians have been wounded in a rocket attack on Tripoli's only functioning airport. Mitiga Airport was hit by overnight fire from Khalifa Haftar's forces. The rocket attack coincided with the arrival of a Libyan plane from Saudi Arabia carrying pilgrims returning from the Hajj. The health ministry says 3 passengers, including a woman, were wounded. The airport director says the runway was damaged and a Libyan Airlines plane was hit by shrapnel, putting it out of service. He said flights have been suspended until further notice. Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif says he will brief Russian officials about the nuclear deal and the recent talks in France. Speaking in Moscow, the Iranian foreign minister said he will also discuss Israeli aggression with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. A high-level Iranian delegation is in Moscow to discuss measures to save the 2015 nuclear deal. The Kremlin says the 2 countries will focus on the Middle East, the Persian Gulf, and Afghanistan. In the meantime, Iran's foreign ministry spokesman Abbas Mousavi said diplomatic efforts are underway to save the nuclear accord. Washington is pushing for a new nuclear deal, while Tehran insists U.S. sanctions must be lifted before any talks. 5 Kurdistan Workers' Party militants have been killed by Turkey in a counter-terrorism operation in northern Iraq. The Turkish Defense Ministry says the airstrikes destroyed a weapons cache and shelters used by the PKK. The ministry says the airstrikes in the Hakruk region were coordinated with Ankar's National Intelligence Organization. It says Turkey will continue to destroy weapon emplacements and shelters used by the terrorists. Ankara accuses the PKK of killing 40,000 people during the insurgency it launched in 1978. In Hong Kong, some 10,000 students have boycotted their classes on the first day of the new school year, joining the ongoing protests. Students braved stormy weather to form human chains around their campuses. The school boycott is part of a broader anti-government campaign initially triggered by a controversial extradition bill. Earlier, masked protesters wreaked havoc at Hong Kong airport and trashed the railway station. Police say 40 prominent activists have been arrested during the clashes. The British government has launched its Get Ready for Brexit campaign. The drive aims to prepare businesses for the legal and financial realities of the post-Brexit UK. Cabinet Minister Michael Gove says billboards, social media and TV adverts will appear in the coming days. Gove says the adverts would encourage shared responsibility for Brexit. Meanwhile, the opposition says it will publish a proposed law to hinder a no-deal Brexit tomorrow. But Cabinet Minister Gove has refused to guarantee the government will abide by any such laws. "15 people have been killed after a 3-story building under construction collapsed in Mali's capital Bamako. The government says 26 people were rescued alive from the rubble. The Civil Protection Ministry says an investigation has opened against the building's owner. Hurricane Durian has slammed into the northwestern Bahamas as a catastrophic Category 5 storm. Packing 185 miles per hour winds, Durian has crashed onshore in the Abacos Island today. The U.S. National Hurricane Center says it is the strongest ever hurricane recorded in the area. Thousands of Grand Bahama residents have been evacuated from its predicted path. Officials say parts of the Abacos are underwater, with the storm surge hitting as high as 23 feet. The southeastern U.S. states of Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina have also ordered mass evacuations.
The strength of this storm cannot be underestimated. We will see tropical force winds within the next 48 hours. The National Hurricane Center reports Durian could nearly stall over the Bahamas for more than 24 hours starting late tonight.
Authorities in Miami say wind speeds have risen to over 220 miles per hour with no sign of weakening. Now moving on to India, where almost 2 million people from the state of Assam have been taken off the National Register of Citizens. This follows a year-long exercise against illegal immigration, which critics say disproportionately target Muslims. The UN has called the move a major blow to global fight against statelessness. More in this report.
Last year, 33 million of Assam's citizens submitted their documents to local officials for the National Register of Citizens. However, nearly 2 million people, mostly Muslims, have been left off the register. Even the families of government employees have not been spared.
Yes, we are having many problems and I feel like crying as well. But what can I do? I don't know what the NRC officials have done till now. The way they are making the list, whether it's true or legal or illegal, we do not know anything.
The
villagers taunt us. Even if we go out, they say despite coming from a renowned family, we do not have our name in the NRC. They talk to us like this. It feels bad when we hear this.
This is just the latest in a long chain of anti-minority developments in India that have taken place in recent years. Cow vigilantism and attacks on Muslims, Christians and Dalits have been on the rise ever since Prime Minister Narendra Modi came to power. What remains to be seen is how much deeper India will go down the Hindutva rabbit hole.
Myanmar's army says it will court-martial soldiers for atrocities committed in the country's northern Rakhine state in 2017. Over 700,000 Rohingya Muslims fled the state after a brutal military operation. A military court visited the northern state and found soldiers had violated orders from the top and committed war crimes. But a previous military investigation in 2017 exonerated the security forces of any wrongdoing. Last year, a UN fact-finding mission said the military campaign was orchestrated with genocidal intent. The report recommended charging Army Chief Min Aung Hlaing and 5 other generals with the gravest crimes under international law. It's time for a short break, but coming up next in the Bulletin. Welcome back. With little help from the international community in ending the Amazon inferno, the forest's indigenous people are turning to prayer and ritual. They believe they can stop the destruction and protect their environment for future generations. More in this report.
As fire ravages the world's largest rainforest, the tribes that have always lived in the Amazon are turning to prayer. In the village of Feo in Brazil's west, the indigenous Xanenawa tribe are performing a ritual meant to find peace between humans and nature.
This is a ritual for the Amazon. Fight the smoke in our country. We want peace and love. We want fight the smoke in the Amazon.
Faces painted, dozens dance in circles as they pray to put an end to the blaze. Tens of thousands of forest fires have been recorded in the Amazon in this year's dry season. At the same time, Brazil's new far-right president, Jair Bolsonaro, has argued the forest needs to be exploited. The backlash has been particularly strong against the Bolsonaro administration. The government says it does not have the resources to put out the fires. Bolsonaro has made headlines for saying too much of the country's territory is unproductive because indigenous tribes have special rights.
If this continues the way it is, with money causing the destruction of the Amazon, in 50 years' time, we will no longer have the forest standing up, and we will not feel secure in what we have, in our culture, in our language, and in our songs. Because without the forest, we won't be able to farm. Without the forest, we won't be able to eat. Without our land, we won't be able to live.
Most of the Amazon is located in Brazil, but significant parts also cover Colombia and Peru, where fires have also been found. While the inferno wreaks havoc in the region, the indigenous people are optimistic that man and nature can live without destroying each other.
A circus in Montreal is adding a high-tech spin to its traditional performances, but acrobats, clowns and trained animals are still a big part of the circus spectacle enjoyed by children and adults alike. Find out how in this report.
2 strange white pyramids have sprouted in Quebec this summer to form an edgy 21st century big top. It's Canada's Cirque du Soleil going up a notch, this time tapping into Quebec's rich animation and video game production talent. They are part of the latest act from Guy Lalibet's Venerable Circus. The troupe's latest show blends acrobatics and multimedia flair with vibrant sound, lasers and 360-degree projections.
The city has become the world's central center of expertise in creation, but also in production. There are a lot of talented and experienced technicians who are based here in Montreal.
The company's latest show, Through the Echoes, tells the story of the universe, from its creation all the way to the present day. Bosch Dreams, which first appeared in the Montreal Circuit Festival in July, is attempting to blend technology, theatre and art. It brings to life the best-known work of Dutch painter Hieronymus Bosch using digital animation.
Today we create shows by also seeking expertise in the field of video games, and we start to merge to break down barriers between people who come from the world of entertainment, the world of circus, the world of theatre and the world of video games to create new forms of entertainment.
The circus company is always looking for the brightest young minds to add a new, inventive flavor to its shows.
The strength is that the National Circus School puts a lot of emphasis on technique, and so they develop artists still have a high level of acrobatic training and a high level of caliber. And to that, they add as much as possible an artistic quality. They will try to give words all that.
In the autumn, the White Pyramids will arrive in Miami, where audiences will watch virtual actors and acrobats with augmented reality glasses.
Lows in the highs of the business world now. A U.S. trade organization says the fresh list of tariffs on Chinese imports is the worst economic mistake in decades. The Consumer Technology Association represents over 2,000 U.S. tech companies. The association president, Gary Shapiro, says the taxes will badly hurt U.S. consumers and negatively affect its economy. He says the trade war with China has cost the consumer technology industry more than $10 billion. The Consumer Technology Association says the new tariffs will not help reach a meaningful trade agreement. Earlier, the US and China hit each other with new tariffs on thousands of their products. Global stocks have fallen after the US and China reinforced investors' worries by imposing new tariffs on each other. European stocks were higher, with FTSE gaining more than 1%. Japan's Nikkei and Hong Kong's Hang Seng both registered losses, but mainland Chinese shares shot up over 1% against the downward trend. South Korea's Kospi too gained marginally. Gold too rose by the most in almost a week as investors sought to minimize investment risks. And now the weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For further updates, stay tuned to Indus News.